It's so hot. Hi, this video is going to be a little bit different because I'm not alone. I'm going to be joined later by my friends Taryn from Conjured Craft, Alfred from Nubmark, and Tina Fielding, and we're going to be playing the bone game. Each of us was given the same skull, and using our own mediums and styles, we each had to interpret what kind of creature this skull might have belonged to. We all have our own world building projects, so I'm really interested to see what everyone came up with. In this video, I'm going to take you through my design and sculpting process, and at the end, I'm going to reveal my creation to you and my friends. Let's get started. I'm just going to get progressively sweatier through this whole video. In my preliminary sketches, I played around with the idea of making some sort of beast of burden, but everything I came up with felt too close to what the animal actually looked like. And also, I just made my squid cat bust, so a beast with a bunch of things on its back felt a bit redundant. Then I thought about making a troll, and this actually worked the best out of everything I sketched, but it felt a bit too safe. I wasn't excited about the idea, and I think I've just made too many trolls lately. And then I tossed around the idea of making a dragon, but I just couldn't make it work. Without horns, the silhouette of the head is just too boring. So finally, I decided to go with something I've been thinking about for a while, making a kind of ancient primordial giant. In my world Goblans, things that are magical like to take on specific shapes based on the kind of magic they emit. This is an idea I stole directly from Monster Garden. A real-world comparison of this is how we see Fibonacci spirals appearing throughout nature. I like the idea that something that emits magic would have some sort of visual indicator of this, whether that be veins that stick out, engravings, or the shape of the thing itself. This is how ancient mages would have originally learned to use magic. By observing nature and magical creatures, they would have been able to develop these runes. Perhaps by combining these runes, they could influence the magic to do different things, and maybe they incorporate those shapes into their wand movements. Over time, they would have been able to develop a whole lexicon of magic from their observations. I want this creature to look really magical, so I'm going to incorporate spiral shapes throughout the entire build. This is inspired by Guillermo del Toro. His creations have this uncanny, otherworldly, magical essence that I'm going to try and channel through this build. I believe the origins of the bone game came from people interpreting elephant skulls as giant cyclops skulls. The cavity in the center of the skull really looks like an eye socket, and there's a cavity in the skull I'm using, so I'm going to give mine a big central eye in the spirit of the bone game. But to make mine a bit more uncanny, I'm going to give my creature 3 eyes. With my concept loosely figured out, I tried sketching, but I did something I've never done before. I tried using the symmetry tool in order to work out some of my earlier ideas. As I was sketching, I came to the same problem I had earlier. Without horns, the silhouette of this head was just going to be really boring. So I thought to myself, how can I make something that's like horns, but not horns? And then I thought, antenna. Maybe this could be a bug-like creature. It already has multiple eyes. I really liked the direction this was going, so I showed it to my partner. Char comes up with almost all of my best ideas, and when I showed her this, she said, why not moth antennae? So I tried that, and of course, it looked way better, and it kind of read as like a forest spirit, and that really influenced the rest of the design. This primordial giant is going to instead be a forest spirit, more of a force of nature than a creature. So with that, I finalized the design. This is what I'm going to use as a reference for my sculpt. It's got kind of an Evangelion silhouette, and I really like that. It makes it feel alien and biblical, and that's exactly what I'm going for. So, no more designing. Let's get sculpting. My friend Escher 3D printed the skull for me. All I had to do was cure it, so I busted out my little UV nail salon. And speaking of nails, mine are looking a little boring, so let's fix that first. Because this is a skull challenge, I decided to start with the face, but I also like starting with the face because I find it helps inform the rest of the sculpt. First thing I did was I pre-baked some Sculpey balls to use as eyes, and then I started sculpting with green stuff. I knew I wanted the face to have a lot of spiral patterns like the Mystics from Dark Crystal, but first I needed to work out the kind of musculature and general shape of the face. Anytime I'm doing a project with my community, even if it's a friendly collaboration, all I can think about is winning. So I spent 2 days meticulously sculpting spirally wrinkles until it looked like my concept art. Sculpting symmetrically like this is really difficult. What I like to do is when I'm happy with one side, I take a picture, flip it, and then use that as a reference to sculpt the other side. Eventually, I was pleased enough to move on to the antennae, and you'd think this step wouldn't be as complicated, but you'd be wrong. I took some Warhammer plastic flags, cut them to the right shape, cut off all the insignia, and then I meticulously cut in little ridges until they looked like moth ears, and I did this 4 times. I am unwell. I attached those moth antennae ears in place, and they looked awesome. The silhouette of the head somehow looked both like a biblically accurate angel and also the devil, which to me meant that I was achieving a kind of deific appearance with this build. My partner asked if I was going to keep up this level of detail for the entire build, and I said, "Don't worry, I have a plan." I had some hooves left over from when I made Turnip Baby, so I used those for the feet, which is great because I hate sculpting feet. This meant that I had to go with a classic extra joint fawn style leg. I tried going with a more humanoid skeleton, but it just looked weird. I really liked in my sketch how it had a long deer-like neck. This really made it feel like the forest spirit from Princess Mononoke, so I built that neck out of tinfoil. From there, I built out the rest of the torso with more tinfoil. I knew I wanted it to have some insect plating, but in general, I wanted the silhouette to be very slender and delicate. Just like feet, I really don't like sculpting hands, so I decided to kit bash some. A fan of the channel sent me their leftover sprues from their giant kit, which had a lot of good hand options. I tried attaching them to the armature, but these teeny tiny hands were kind of giving... Can I have a candy, please? So I tried using troll hands instead, which worked a lot better, but I only had one I liked. I was really tempted to destroy one of my trolls for this project, but instead I sucked it up and just decided to sculpt the stupid hands. The reason I hate sculpting hands is because you can either make an armature out of wire, but then you have to wrap putty or clay around each finger individually, which is really annoying, or you can just use clay without an armature, but then it doesn't want to hold its shape, which is also really annoying. I ended up making them out of Sculpey, and then once baked, I kind of carved them into a better shape, but this took a really long time and it's not a method I would recommend. If you have a good method for sculpting hands, please leave it in the comments below. In my bits box, I had these Tyranid plates that I thought would make a really cool overlapping shell carapace thing. I modified them so they could be stacked, and then I tried attaching them all together using hot glue. Except... yeah, apparently hot glue melts plastic like this. I had no idea. Luckily I had an extra, and so on my second pass I used super glue to attach them together. Then I ran into another problem. My ideal material for sculpting this body is Sculpey, but Sculpey is a polymer clay, which means it needs to be baked in the oven in order to cure. But as we've seen, when plastic get hot, it melts. So I needed to find a way to use Sculpey without melting the rest of the model. My solution was to temporarily attach everything in place, sculpt with Sculpey, detach everything flammable, and then bake it. Obviously I could have used Milliput or green stuff for this step, but Sculpey is a lot faster and a lot easier to use. You can build up shapes really quickly and then refine them to a high level of detail without worrying about them drying on you. I was able to sculpt these intricate spiral patterns a lot easier than when I was using green stuff earlier. It was really satisfying to find a way for all of these spiraling shapes to connect, but I gotta say, I would have saved a lot of time if I had planned a bit better. Once I was happy with the shapes, I took off the shell, the feet, and the head, and then I baked it in the oven. Once baked, I reattached those bits, and now I'm committed to using Milliput and green stuff for the rest of this build. On my tower giant, I made the mistake of using a very thin layer of Sculpey on the arms and legs, which made it really brittle. It basically has the texture of an eggshell, which meant that I've broken it multiple times. To be fair, I've also dropped it multiple times. Milliput is a bit stronger than Sculpey, so I'm hoping that doesn't happen this time. Maybe I should just not drop my models. I've been watching basically nothing but subjectively throughout this entire build. If you want insightful thoughts on character design, I can't recommend the channel enough. One thing that stuck with me was they said a design was weak because it was too balanced, meaning the arms and legs and head and torso were all about the same size and in proportion to one another. Now this doesn't seem like a weakness at first, but if nothing about a design is exaggerated, in most cases it means that the design isn't saying anything. When sculpting a creature, you should ask yourself, what am I trying to communicate with this design? If you want the creature to look powerful, consider making it top-heavy. Give it long, muscular arms and little legs like a gorilla. If you want it to be a predator, give it claws or teeth and front-facing eyes. I want this design to look otherworldly and magical, so I give it extra long arms and legs, but very little muscle. A creature this magical doesn't need to be strong. I don't want it to look violent. It's not a predator, but it's not a prey. It literally has front and side-facing eyes. It's something else entirely. Another takeaway from illustration you can apply to sculpting is to watch out for tangents. In illustration, a tangent is when lines from different shapes overlap and make things confusing and hard to read. When I was sculpting this creature, I kept that in mind. This creature is in motion, so its legs are apart. I wanted one arm to be reaching out as if it's looking for something, and the other at rest. But the hand that's at rest, I made sure to lie in between the two legs. This way, whatever angle you're looking at the sculpt, you'll see every part of the creature. This makes the sculpt much more dynamic. With that, the silhouette of the creature is done, but there's a bigger problem I need to address. I have a highly detailed face. The shoulders and the chest and neck are looking pretty detailed, but the arms and legs are looking real plain. Shara warned me about this and I said I had a plan, but I didn't. But really there was only one solution to this problem, and it was to give every part of the creature the same level of attention. So I powered on. Editing niche here, so I lost the footage of adding those details. But in short, I added some swirly veins to the arms, I carved in some designs into the legs, and I made a base with some crumbling ruin shapes on them. It took a very long time, but we're just gonna cut to the finished sculpt and pretend like this movie magic was an intentional choice, okay? Ready? Movie magic! I don't really regret committing to such a high level of detail because it made for such a unique build. But as always, the primer revealed everything that was bad about the sculpt. I fixed all the bad sculpting with an X-Acto knife, and all the bad textures I fixed with undiluted gesso. And then it came time to paint this thing. The painting on this really gave me a lot of trouble. I used oil paints for this because I figured I could be a bit more experimental, I could slap color around, and eventually I would find something that I liked. But I just couldn't find it. So I decided to look to my initial inspiration, Guillermo del Toro, but unfortunately, basically all of his creatures are gray, and that's not what I wanted for this creature at all. So I started looking other places for a color scheme, but nothing quite matched the vibe I was going for, which is really frustrating, but I think also means that I'm making something really unique. Eventually I found a color scheme I liked, but before I reveal it, let's jump on a call.
Many months later.
We've got...
Oh! Oh!
Oh my god, that's beautiful!
Oh, Nick! What
Yes. Yes.
detail! Dios mío.
This is one of my favorite builds I've ever done. I was so much more thoughtful about my decision making throughout the process, and I feel like I'm really improving. I feel like this departure in style and this more creative design also really shows how much I've grown. My goal is to constantly improve, and I feel like I can't do that if I get stuck in a one-note style. I feel like this creature is really different than anything I've ever made, but still feels like it fits within the world of Goblins. This challenge really pushed me to design things in a different way, and I'm really glad I did it. Please go check out my friends' videos to see what they made. Truly, these are some of my favorite creators of all time, and I'm so glad I got to work with them. If you like the video, do all the stuff down here, but also consider sharing it with a friend. It really helps me out. If you want to help support me directly making weird, whimsical worlds, please consider joining me over on Patreon. I'm committing less time to doing commissions and more time to making videos, and that transition is really hard, and the support over on Patreon really helps out a ton. To my lovely patrons, thank you so much. It really means the world to me. As always, let me know what you want to see me make next time. Bye!